Notice is hereby given that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, the laws of 1975, notice of this meeting has been sent to all school offices, officially designated newspapers, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the Board of Education office 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
Here.
Mrs. Pincinelli?
Here.
Mrs. Rothenberg?
Here.
And Mr. White?
Here.
Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, since I'm sitting in for the board president today, so I will give the President's report. First, I hope that everyone had a nice spring break and was able to relax and enjoy the time off. Second, I wanted to remind the public that the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment will return next month for students in grades 3 through 8. This test has not been administered since 2019. Principals have sent out information regarding the testing, and if you're looking for more information about it, please visit the district website. And lastly, but most importantly, on behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the Rivervale teachers and nurses. Teacher Appreciation Week is May 2nd through the 6th, and Nurse Appreciation Day is May 11th. We here at Rivervale are extremely lucky to have such caring, inspiring, dedicated, and supportive educators and nurses who create and foster a wonderful environment for our children to grow, learn, and take risks. So thank you for all that you do, all that you sacrifice, and all that you are. I guess this will be, do we have a meeting coming? Oh, it's not the last one yet, so I won't say have a nice summer yet. So that's it from my report. Committee reports, buildings and grounds. Do we have anything?
Yes. Happy to say that the referendum project has been moving along. Most of the work is being done at Holdrum. Activities that were actually, while the students were out, was the courtyard site work, demolition, and tree removals was completed. They have completed the interior footing, rebar, and concrete. They're completed. Thank you. They've completed masonry materials in terms of being delivered. And we're anticipating this week to continue with the masonry block foundation walls at the 8th grade wing and the wellness center. At Roberge, we currently have some work going on, mostly after hours due to the fact that the students are still in school. And the contractor has mobilized. They mobilized last week, and they will continue to work on rooms 35, 36, 37, and 38. At Woodside, the project submittals are being sent in, they're being reviewed. The work will be starting when school lets out in June. So that's all we have for our projects as of right now.
Communications and policies. Anything to report on that? I think so. Curriculum and technology, Mrs. Rothenberg.
No, I'll just repeat that the information from the last testing is still up on the website, and we'll be meeting on May 10th.
Okay. Finance, all I have to report is the county office approved our 2022-2023 budget, so that's always good news. Negotiations, I don't think there's anything for that. And personnel, nothing for me from this for personnel. If you take a look, the committee schedule, meeting schedule is down below for the next couple of meetings, and next year. Public comments. The Rivervale Board of Education is committed to encouraging the citizens of Rivervale and employees of the Rivervale School District to speak directly to the board trustees. In order to facilitate this communication, residents and employees are requested to 1, sign in before speaking, 2, to maintain an appropriate sense of decorum, and 3, to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The board will also take under advisement the written comments and opinions of non-residents that are submitted to the board secretary. Being mindful of its responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of meetings, the board retains the right to rule on such matters as the speaker's right to address the board, as well as the appropriateness of the subject being presented. The board's decision in such matters is final. The board also reminds all members of the public that while it subscribes without reservation to the principle of keeping the community informed by policy and law, it cannot allow public discussion of personnel matters, nor can trustees comment on any current or pending litigation. If a matter concerning an employee of the Rivervale Public Schools is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal or the superintendent of schools by telephone, letter, or email. I will open the meeting to public comments at 7:15. If anyone's here for public comments. And I will, seeing there are none, I will close the meeting to public comments at 7:16. And the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So if you've been following the news headlines, there's been some discussion around the new state mandated health standards that are expected to be implemented in all New Jersey public schools starting in September. Our district, in collaboration with the Regional Curriculum Office and a team of expert educators, is creating a curriculum to align with these new standards. The New Jersey Department of Ed is allowing parents to opt out of certain lessons around these new standards. By late June, we are planning to provide insight into each standard and lesson objective. Additionally, the full curriculum is expected to be completed by the end of the summer and posted on our website. These steps will ensure that parents have a clear understanding of what their child will be learning. However, Governor Murphy recently required the Department of Education to review the standards and provide clarification on age-appropriate guidelines. It is unclear if this review will affect the September timeline for implementing these standards. If the implementation date is not delayed, we will continue with our plan and provide parents with more details in June and the full curriculum by the end of the summer. If implementation of the standards from the New Jersey Department of Ed is delayed, then we'll provide insight into each standard and lesson objective as soon as the information is available. It's also important to note that some of the postings on social media and in the news refer to resources that are controversial for schools to expose students to. Please understand that these are resources, they're not curriculum, and they're not the mandated standards. This means that they will not be taught in the Rivervale schools. Information regarding this topic will be sent again in my May district newsletter, and we hope that detailed information along with the opt-out process will come in either June, as we originally planned to do, or when the state completes the review and provides any updates. Of course, if any parent has additional concerns, they're always welcome to reach out to us for clarity. I hope everyone had a wonderful spring break and enjoyed some time to relax and recharge. We have about a month and a half left to school, which is kind of shocking. It's gone very quickly this year, but I'm looking forward to a continued successful year. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Secretary's report.
Okay, thank you. I'll start out with, I hope everybody had a nice holiday and a restful break. Just as a reminder, the CUSAC fiscal monitoring and walkthrough was postponed until May 9th. So we won't know until the Friday before, but we're on track and we're ready. Also just want to bring to the board's attention that in October is the New Jersey School Boards Association workshop. It is scheduled to be in person down in Atlantic City. I will get you some additional information over the next month or so. And now I will provide the board and the public with the public presentation of the 2022-2023 budget. Testing. Testing. Apologize for my back. Okay. So can everyone hear me? Okay. So it's another year, another budget, and another presentation. So thank you to the county office. They have approved our 22-23 budget. Okay, thank you to the Board of Education, everybody who participated in this process. It was a very long and crazy process this year, and I appreciate everybody's help. So just to bring everybody's attention, what do we value here in Rivervale? We value great education for students, and that means more than test scores. We empower students. We find the use of technology to be powerful. What's important to us are the teachers in the classroom, and we are true to what we value. How do we educate the 21st century student? We leverage technology from grades K, actually pre-K, to 8. We continually hire and support and develop great staff. That's on all levels. We're evolving to meet the needs of all students. We continue moving from current to trend setting for the benefit of students. And we maintain our facilities, technology, and support doing that. Some of the Rivervale budget goals are to create a budget that's reflective of the Rivervale School District's values and continued commitment to excellence. We are respectful to the community, and the budget maintains a rigorous cycle of curriculum review and renewal. The budget supports all current educational programming and staffing levels. Small class sizes, full-day kindergarten, pre-K through 8 technology initiatives, digital resources such as Canvas, Linkit, Big Ideas, math, etc. We have a commitment to a rigorous cycle of curriculum, review, and renewal. And we spend an enormous amount of resources on professional development to make sure that we're in sync with the other regional school districts. These are the Board of Education goals that are set in May for the following year. These happen to have been last year's goals. So as we are in and finishing this particular school year, I know it's small. This presentation will be posted up on the website so everybody can see. These are some of the goals for student learning and achievement, implementing year 1 of the newly adopted math series, further developing targeted instruction in math through data analysis, implementing patterns of power grammar program. Further develop targeted information and literacy through data analysis. We piloted Linkit for student benchmarks. And then goal 2 is social and emotional learning, which was to continue and expand the district's diversity committee. Implement year 2 of the ruler approach, which is the social emotional wellness curriculum for all students pre-K through 8. Support teachers in maintaining student mental health. And that was partnership with West Bergen Mental Health. Goal 3 was communications. Continue the scheduled cycle of superintendent and principal e-blasts to inform parents of the general schedule of district communications in the beginning of the year. highlight student achievement, revise and update the K through 5 report cards to better align to the state learning standards and provide parents with better understanding of their child's progress. Inform and update the public on ongoing referendum projects. For those of you who have not had the opportunity, there is a page up on the website that has been being updated in terms of referendum projects, and that's also included in the superintendent's e-blast and newsletters. Develop a safe return plan outlining the COVID safety protocols and procedures in terms of the state, in terms of purchasing powers. We do whatever it takes in order to share services and save money. Clearly, we've been preparing for the CUSAC monitoring. Hopefully that will be over on May 9th. First half of that was completed in March and soon to be over for us. We have on the agenda tonight the ratification of the custodial's contract. So that was a goal that was successful. And for technology, the existing wireless network was upgraded to the latest technology in all the buildings. We did increase network cybersecurity to make sure that we're protected in that genre. And 3 grade levels of new devices were deployed, which was a huge undertaking. Thank you to the technology department because, again, this was last year and we were still dealing with all the ramifications of COVID. So again, as you can see that this says October, but truly the budget starts in September. We meet with all the stakeholders, we meet with the board, and the governor's budget address was in March. State aid figures were released March, a little bit later than normal. Tentative budget was approved March 15th, and clearly today is the 26th, and this is the formal hearing. Rivervale is a leader in the area of shared services. I touched on this. These are some of the additional components, some of the areas that we seek to share services with. Our insurance group, we get the best rates. We're involved with 43 districts. We partner with the PTA and the Rivervale Ed Fund to provide assemblies, updates, initiatives throughout the district. We're very fortunate with those partnerships. Challenges. Mandates. Unfunded. That's been a long-standing challenge. Not sure if that'll ever go away, but hope spring eternal. Special education. Just a fact. It's a fluid situation where students have needs. We want to support those needs. We don't have crystal balls, and sometimes we have a reason for a student to have to go to an out-of-district placement, and it's unexpected. It's not in our budget, and we have to find the money to pay for that. Health benefits, that's another cost that we have no control over. The state sets those premiums. We're involved with the state health benefit plan, and that's out of our control. State aid, just so that everybody's aware, this district receives from their funding, what funds the budget, it's 4%. 4% we get in state aid. The rest is on the backs of the local taxpayer. This happens to be the most state aid that Rivervale has received ever. So that was a real win this year. How we start the budget, discretionary spending was kept flat. It's a zero-based budget. All the buildings' budgets, they start with, you have to prove to us why you need the budget that you're asking for. We did not, as a school district, request any waivers. Staffing was maintained at current levels. And spending was kept under the cap. The cap is a revenue cap. It's 2%. This budget that's being presented is 1.92. So you can see year by year, last year's budget versus the proposed budget for this year. The budgeted fund balance is from the previous year. If it's not spent, there's a calculation. You're forced to give that money back to the taxpayer, which is fine. We did not have any excess fund balance this year. We are not using the capital reserve for any withdrawals. If you recall, the $6.7 million was for the referendum project. There is not a need to withdraw anymore at this particular time. You can see the increase for the tax levy. Tuition is, we run an integrated preschool program. We charge tuition for those students. And we typically take about 8 students. Miscellaneous interest, and the cap reserve. So we rent the upstairs of the annex to the Park Academy. That's $75,000. We also rent our building, the gym in both elementaries and a couple classrooms, to the Rivervale Ed Fund. And then there's $5,000 that we're anticipating earning in the capital reserve bank accounts. Interest is not what it's been. You can see your state aid. There was an increase from last year. Federal grants, that is tied to specific areas. We receive IDEA grants, which are for special education. We receive about $13,000 in Title II grants, which is for professional development for teachers. And that is restricted, so it's not as though you can take those grants and you can just spend it on whatever it is that you want. There are certain restrictions, and we have to file an application. It goes to the state and it gets approved, and they ask all kinds of questions. And then we are seeking to raise, due to our referendum, $1.2 million for the tax levy. We are receiving debt service aid in the amount of $809,000. We are expecting additional state aid. They need to catch up because of the budget cycle, so we are expecting, but this is new on the books for the referendum. If you recall, we paid off our last debt service principal payment September of 2020. So in terms of appropriations, these are our expenditures. You can see that we have certain categories. Instruction, that's teacher salaries, supplies, textbooks, those types of expenditures. Co-curricular, those are the after-school activities. They are safety patrol, there's sports, so that's that particular category. Special education tuition, that is specifically for students that we send out of district. Support services are related services. They are child study team, they're speech, they're OT, PT, guidance. Those are the types of categories that fit under support services. Administration is superintendent's office, school business official's office. It's the building offices in terms of each school. It's also technology. Operations and maintenance and plant, custodial maintenance, transportation, that includes special education transportation and our in-district routes. In terms of capital outlay, as you can see, there's an asterisk in terms of $50,000 that we are required to put in this line because of the bonds that that were sold back in 1998 when you had your last referendum. Due to administrative processes, the state has attached an assessment to all school districts that had a piece of that, of those bonds. So we have had to pay the state back $50,000 for at least the last 6 to 8 years. Again, special revenue, it's exactly what we're anticipating from the revenues is what we're allowed to spend. And then debt service. That's our principal and interest payment for the year. Okay, so what does that all mean? General fund budget is 1.92 over last year. The board has felt very strongly about their commitment to fiscal responsibility. The increase has not been over 2% in the last 10 years. Again, it's a very strong conviction, and we're fortunate with our partnerships and with living within our means that we're able to continue to do this. So I apologize, but that is not a decrease. So the increase for the average homeowner on an annual basis is $154.86. And that, so that negative, it's not negative, it's in addition to. And does anybody have any questions?
No, just to say thank you, because I know you worked so hard on this throughout the year, and to you and Ms. Signori, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? At this point, we can open it up for public comments on the budget. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
One that I'm curious at the administration line, the $6 million, you said it's like the building. What does that entail? Like maintenance, overhead, things like that?
Great question. So the question was the administration. The $6 million, what does that include? So in terms of administration, I'll start with what is considered to be the superintendent's office. Salaries, its legal expenses, its election expenses, its internet expenses, its telephone expenses, its printing, its our legal liability expense. Those are some of the superintendent's, what falls under the superintendent's considered expenses. Under my office would be salaries. It would be the cost of our purchasing services for the audit. Actually, that's under the superintendent's line, but in terms of supplies, what it takes to run that particular office. In terms of technology, it's the software that we use in order to run our finances and our payroll, as well as our facilities maintenance software. And in terms of the building level, it would be your principal salaries, their secretarial salaries, graduation expenses, supplies, those items, professional dues. You're welcome. Anything else? Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you again, Ms. Ippolito, for all your hard work and diligence and for also doing this presentation, because always interesting and informative. Can I have a motion to move general resolutions G1 through G5?
I'll motion G1 through G5.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mrs. Pintorelli?
Yes. May I have a motion to move business resolutions B1 17 through B17?
I'll move it.
A second, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll just point out for B15, as was discussed last board meeting, the board will be seeking transportation. We'll be going out for bid for our local routes. That's for Holdrum. So that's on the agenda.
Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
So I'm going to abstain from B16B and B16C.
Yes.
So yes, otherwise.
Thank you. Mrs. Rothenberg?
Yes, I'll abstain from B16F.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mrs. Pintorelli?
Yes, and I'll abstain from B16D. Okay, can I have a motion to move personnel resolutions P1 through P13?
A motion P1 through P13.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Any discussion? Then roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mrs. Pintorelli?
Yes. The Rivervale, for public comments, the Rivervale Board of Education is committed to encouraging the citizens of Rivervale and employees of the Rivervale School District to speak directly to board trustees. In order to facilitate this communication, residents and employees are requested to sign in before speaking, 2, to maintain an appropriate sense of decorum, and 3, to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The board will also take under advisement the written comments and opinions of non-residents that are submitted to the board secretary. Being mindful of its responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of meetings, the board retains the right to rule in such matters as the speaker's right to address the board, as well as the appropriateness of the subject matter presented. The board's decision in such matters is final. The board also reminds all members of the public that while it subscribes without reservation to the principle of keeping the community informed by policy and law, it cannot allow public discussion of personnel matters, nor can trustees comment on any current or pending litigation. If a matter concerning an employee of the Rivervale Public Schools is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal or the superintendent of schools by telephone, letter, or email. I will open up public comments at 7:45. Okay, seeing none, I will close to public comments at 7:45. Any old business? Any new business? You're making this really easy on me tonight. Okay, we will be going into closed session. We will not be coming back out. Is there a motion to enter closed session?
I'll move it.
And second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do I need to read this? Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Have a good evening. Good night.